And, well, hey, listen, with all the stuff happening around the 76ers, for them to pick up this victory with a little bit of a scare in the arena in that first half, really the end of the second quarter, Joel Embiid having to leave the floor and go back to the locker room. They pick up the win, lift everybody's spirits again as he returns to help lead the Sixers past the Orlando Magic, now 7 in a row with one game remaining against the Brooklyn Nets on Sunday to close out the regular season. We'll discuss it all here on the PHLY Sixers postgame show with Derek Bodner. I'm Devon Givens. Brianna is producing. All of you are here as usual. Hope you added some friends and brought some friends along with you because we're going to be here a while. Kyle Newbeck will join us live from the arena to break down this 7th consecutive win for the 76ers. And again, moving much closer to that 6th seed as they are now tied in the standings with the Orlando Magic, holding the tiebreaker. Of course, they swept the season series. While we are doing the show, we will update you on what these standings and ramifications are because they're changing by the minute with 3 games going on at the moment that matter to the Sixers and their standing in the Eastern Conference. But as I said, avoiding a scare, picking up the victory, 7 in a row. Sixers now 46-35, tied for the 6th seed with the Orlando Magic. Currently playing the New York Knicks, the Milwaukee Bucks, and the Indiana Pacers. So are the Miami Heat, but that one doesn't matter as much as long as the Sixers win tonight. And again on Sunday, Miami will be the 8th seed, and we'll worry about 7, 8, 6, 5, and all that stuff as we go on and get some final scores here. But Derek, as we are here, they get another victory. They avoid a scare with the big fella. Knee, ankle, somewhere, something with that left.
A lower body injury, as our hockey friends
on the
would
left
say.
side of his floor, on the left side of his body. Yes, but they get the victory, man, and they handled their business once again.
Yeah, and I thought there was some really interesting stuff happening in this game, besides the fact that they picked up a crucial win, which is the most important thing. But the way Joel Embiid came out slinging the rock early to start this game was really nice to see. Like, and some of those passes, it's one thing for him to be passing, but like there was that bounce pass to the cutter. I forget who it was.
Tobias Harris.
And then the very next possession, there was that rocket to Kelly in the corner where he used the cutter to draw the attention of the defense, and he found Kelly in the corner. He found another one to Tobias where he got doubled under the rim, a nice kick out to Batum when he was doubled in the post. He was manipulating the defense and making tough passes in ways that 3-4 years ago, I don't think he could. So I think that was real fun to see. And this was against a team in Orlando that's a real good defense. Like I think they had a top 5 half-court defense in the league. They have some serious size, some serious length, some serious mobility, especially with the way Jonathan Isaac is playing. The way he was picking apart defense, I thought was a real nice takeaway.
Can I add that first pass to Tobias Harris in the corner on the left when he missed it early on?
Yep,
Double team came.
Missed shots aren't his fault.
No,
Still a good pass.
No, not at all. Double team came. He read it. He saw that some whipped that pass into the corner to Tobias Harris.
And this is just Joel getting back up to speed, getting into the flow of an NBA game and feeling more comfortable making those reads. I thought his first 2 or 3 games, getting doubles was where you could see the rust the most. The rust is leaving. So that was real good to see. Obviously, fourth quarter Tyrese Maxey continues to be a joy to watch.
That's a thing.
Something that we mentioned early on in the season. Even if you would struggle in the first half, you would come back and find a way to make an imprint on the game in the fourth quarter. This was another one where every time Orlando made a run there in the second half, it seemed like Tyrese Maxey, especially in that fourth quarter, had an answer for that. Ended up going 5 for 10 from three-point range. Again, this is against a really good defense and a defense with size. Theoretically, this is a matchup that could cause Tyrese Maxey some problems. He continues to show crucial growth that will be key if they're going to make a deep playoff run. So those 2 things jump out immediately. Shocker, the Sixers 2 stars are where we're going to start this show, but I think it's worthwhile, like I said, especially because this is sort of a measuring stick game of your 2 stars going up against a really good defense.
No, absolutely. Derek laid all of that out perfectly with the number 1, great win, great team win, as Ish is saying in the chat, great team win. Great job by them to come out there and handle business. They took their gut punches from the Orlando Magic in this one by having to respond. Derek alluded to the defense, not only the half-court defense, but when things started to get away from Orlando, they extended their defense full court and gave the Sixers some problems there in that second quarter. With it, Embiid having that injury scare. Starting off number one, though, right out of the gate, playing really well with the scoring and the passing. Rebounding the ball very well, leaving no doubt where the Orlando Magic could get the rebound. Putting the defense. We talked about Wendell Carter Jr. on yesterday's show and how good he can be offensively, but getting into trouble defensively. He didn't play a lot tonight, of course, but early on, Joel Embiid got him in foul trouble immediately like he typically does. Batazi coming in, same thing. While he did score a few points there, Joel Embiid putting them in that foul trouble situation where Jamal Mobley has to adjust once again. So he was strong immediately with how he was manipulating the defense and putting them in their tough spots. Then you had Tyrese Maxey co-starring in that first quarter where he knocks down 3 threes right away. He didn't have to do a lot of dribble drive stuff and create for others. He just simply stayed in his spot, did what he needed to do, hit a couple of big shots from beyond the three-point line where both of those two set the tone early. Then you add in Kelly Oubre's steady play once again, although he got in foul trouble early on, rebounding, not rebounding on the boards, just rebounding and collecting himself and not having him get down, putting himself in a tough spot where he was able to bounce back and finish with 21 points. So you had 3 players that scored with over 20 points and your 2 stars, once again, just your all-stars stepping up there. So you saw that from Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey very, very early, where I thought Joel Embiid was on pace early for a triple-double. He had 5 assists after the first quarter, and I was like, oh, he's going to get that easily because he is passing the ball as they are cutting to the basket. He is passing the ball in the corners for those 3-pointers. He is not putting himself in harm's way to turn the basketball over. He had 3 bad passes in that first quarter to go along with the good play, of course, with his vision out there on the floor, seeing the double teams, just simply making the basic pass to not put himself and the team in a bad position where you just looked at this and said, you know what? While the Orlando Magic are a good basketball team, the Sixers have their number and they're just going to get after him. Then he also did things on the defensive end where they were a little worried coming to the basket and trying to score in the paint. He altered shots. While he didn't have a lot of block shots, he altered so many shots where they had to make those business decisions coming into the painted area in that first half where he was really good at anchoring the defense. And you can also see, we'll get to Kyle Lowry because I thought he played a really good game for the low amount of points, but you understand why he's in the game. But the way that Joel Embiid anchored that defense on the back end and the switching, reading certain things. Once Wendell Carter went out the game, Joel Embiid was leaving Batazi and doing everything else while he was roaming like a free safety in the middle of the paint, leaving him going to the other side of the paint to dare them to call some sort of illegal defense because he's not guarding a man in his area, where I thought he was that good early on for what he was doing both offensively and most importantly defensively for the 76ers there. And obviously Tyrese Maxey just doing the Tyrese Maxey stuff as the co-star.
Yeah. No, this was a really good team win. And look, I think the Sixers kept them around at times. I thought there was some unnecessary fouling. Like I thought the Sixers bailed them out of some possessions. Make Orlando score in the half court, make them make shots, and you have a chance. Put them on the free throw line. You can keep Orlando in the game. Orlando really wins games with their defense by winning the possession battle and by getting the free throw line. So I think the Sixers could clean some of that up. But other than that, I thought they played a pretty good game overall. You got contributions from a lot of people, not just your 2 stars. I thought Tobias Harris had a real good game at times. I thought he played some real good off-ball defense in the first half, which I don't think I've said all year. That's one of the major criticisms of Tobias is he kind of has these meandering double teams that don't really cause any, like the ball handler, any kind of pressure, but also leaves his man wide open. He had one where he got a steal and turned that into a transition opportunity.
Yes, he did.
Another one where he forced a travel because he jumped a passing lane. And it was real nice to see him do that. He then came out and had that strong start to the third quarter. If you get that version of Tobias more often, and he had some pretty good defense there on Orlando's big forwards as well. If you get that version of Tobias in the playoffs, we wouldn't complain about him nearly as much. So I thought that was good. You mentioned Kelly with crashing the glass. I thought that was key.
Yes, he did.
He had, how many points he had? Like 8 in the first quarter. He was real big to start the game.
Yep.
Just a really, really strong team win.
Finishing with 9 rebounds on the night. 7 defensive, 2 rebounds. You talked about some stupid fouls, some silly fouls. I'll just rephrase it a little bit. Silly fouls. It was funny because that was the second quarter, and you know who they were on? I'm not picking on him. I just wanted to point this out. 2 personal fouls by Tobias Harris in the span of about 2 minutes, and they were really back-to-back possessions on the Orlando Magic offensive end. And as they happened, one on Paolo Banchero, one on Franz Wagner, where they went to the basket and they got to the free throw line as a result of the silly foul from Tobias Harris. Again, not picking on him, just pointing out what Derek just alluded to. And I bring it up because it was in front of us in the media section. They're coming towards us in front of the media section as they're playing in the first half. And when the fouls occurred, Joel Embiid was the help man there. Again, Batazi is the one in the game, not Wendell Carter or anybody else. Mo Wagner not in the game at that point. Pardon me. And Joel Embiid yells, well, first he said it to Tobias Harris where you can hear it clearly because he's in front of us, stop reaching.
Yeah.
Goes to the free throw line. They knock down their free throws, go to the other end, offensive possession, come back down the floor. It happens again. Joel Embiid then yells because the ball's going out of bounds after the whistle is blown to the crowd, stop reaching. You know he's talking to Tobias again because I just told you to stop reaching. I am your help, man. I got your back. Those are things, of course, that are important because that's something that they're going to point out in the film session whenever they have that, to point it out again. Hey, I have your back. Don't worry about it. Stop reaching. Play your man straight up. You've been playing good defense, as Derek just alluded to. You don't need to put your hand in the cookie jar and get caught. Stop reaching. And that's where something like that is important because it cleans up some mess that you want to prevent in the postseason when that happens again.
Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely. Yep.
So good defense right there. Stop reaching on those plays, Tobias Harris, because you got the big fella right back there to help clean up any of those mistakes should they rear their ugly heads once again. But all in all, I thought the team played a pretty good game in general. You knew what was at stake. As Kyle talked about after the win on Tuesday, they know what's in front of them. They understood what they have been doing and what needs to be done in this particular scenario to pick up these wins. And as we've said, folks, you've said it, Derek has said it, Bree has said it, that they have been playing playoff basketball for quite some time now.
Yes.
So this is not new to them. Sure, they can slip up and lose one of these basketball games. And that may very well happen in the play-in game in game 1, or if they are there. Could happen in game 1 of the 7-game series if they're lucky enough now to play and avoid the play-in, just move right on to that 6 seed or the 6 seed, because if you're playing in 7, you have to play the play-in. But if they're lucky enough to do that with the way that they've been playing, they answered the call here by doing what they needed to do in this particular game. And Derek, I mean, they're playing some really good basketball right now. This was a good basketball team, the Orlando Magic. While they are on the downside, the defense turning it up and forcing the Sixers to do some things and play out of character, if you will, had people in the arena a little on edge before I left.
Yeah, and I actually didn't make it down. This is one of the few games all year that I didn't make it down for any of it.
He was busy doing the Iverson stuff. We'll talk about that later.
We'll get to that. But just hearing people describe the way the crowd reacted when Joel came back out for that third quarter after that scare, not that you wanted. I
was looking for Iverson because that's how the crowd erupted when he walked out with about 45 seconds left.
Yeah. That's what I was getting to, though. Like, just seeing the crowd and the anticipation and the reaction. He was having MVP chants like a minute into the game. We are getting to the point where that energy, that enthusiasm, that excitement is really, really starting to build. And it's been building for a while, but the 7-game winning streak with Joel back, having these playoff type games a little while ago against Miami, certainly here tonight, you're starting to feel that excitement again. And we talked about nonsense basketball for so long. I can't wait. I love, and honestly, this is probably a segment for a little later in the show, but having Iverson back just reminded me of some of the energy from those runs, and I can't wait. I just want one really deep, really good run during the Joel Embiid era, so this sort of era of Sixers basketball, just this generation of Sixers fans can feel that. Yeah,
they can feel it. And again, guys, gals, Sixer fans out there, man, with all that we talked about during that 29-game stretch with Joel Embiid out, man, did we really suffer through that at the time. For them to now be in a position where they might actually get a really good draw should they not only maybe get the 7th seed, but also get that 6th seed from 6 to 7 to that moving past that first round, if they are able to do so, then getting to that second round matchup once again for, I don't know how many times this will be in 8 playoff appearances at this point. But this is, we thought top 3, okay, who's the draw going to be? We know about Milwaukee and Boston. But man, Derek, the way this is playing out again, where Milwaukee may not be as strong as we at first thought.
I mean, may not be. They've been playing some crap basketball for about 2 weeks.
And if they try to force Giannis back on the floor too soon, that might be, their season might end sooner than they really think. But for that to potentially be the first round matchup, and then you go into a situation where they get to the second round and they're playing, I don't know, Cleveland, New York, Indiana, whoever it might be, as tough as New York as we've talked about them, man, they might get a really good draw. So something that we all have to pay attention to. And when you do so, man, you might as well just sit back. I didn't bring it in here. I did want to drink, but I did bring the water. I didn't want water. I wanted soda.
Yeah.
I wanted soda.
Brings us to Olipop. You've heard us talk about it a lot on the show.
Period.
They have a lot of really great flavors, everything from vintage cola, soda cream, strawberry, vanilla. Classic root beer is my favorite. I bought a pack of classic root beer recently. I absolutely love that. I have been a longtime soda drinker. Having a more healthy alternative is great. I've taken to Olipop really quickly. Olipop is the world's first functional soda with a classic soda taste and the benefits of plant-based fiber, prebiotics, and other botanical ingredients to support gut health. Olipop is a new kind of soda with only 2 to 5 grams of sugar and 9 grams of fiber per can. Olipop is available online and available in almost 30,000 retailers nationwide, including the most recent launch at all Wawa stores. Olipop's debut in Wawa couldn't be more of a match made in heaven. A delicious, healthy drink meets a convenience store, both adored by a cult following. 2 flavors debuting in Wawa are classic root beer, which I just talked about, and strawberry vanilla, the 2 most popular flavors. Olipop uses functional ingredients that combine the benefits of prebiotics, plant fiber, and botanicals to support your digestive health. 90% of Americans consume more than the USDA's daily recommended added sugar intake of 30 grams. Definitely one of them. Need to cut back on that. Sweetened beverages like soda are the leading source of added sugars in the American diet. Olipop is much lower in sugar than the conventional sodas, with only 2 to 5 grams of sugar from natural sources. Use the code PHLY20 for 20% off your next Olipop order. The discount only applies to one-time orders, not to subscription orders. Olipop is sold online at drinkolipop.com and Amazon, and available in almost 30,000 retailers nationwide, including Wawa, Target, Sprouts, Wegmans, ShopRite, and GoPuff.
I'm going to make sure I get one once we're done out of the fridge. Get the Olipop for the ride home.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, folks, guys, gals, Philadelphia basketball fans, our episode here is brought to you by our good friends from BetParx app. Get in the zone with BetParx Sportsbook app, and there's a lot going on this weekend with your Philadelphia sports. Not only with your basketball team on Sunday trying to get 8 straight and position themselves to control their own destiny in that way, but also hope that some things happen around the association to get them into the 6th seed. They even have a long shot chance at the 5 seed, right, going into tonight's game. And you also have the baseball team across the street. Traffic was busy in South Philly tonight because they are playing a 4-game series against Pittsburgh. Unfortunately, they lost tonight. Philadelphia basketball team won tonight. But if you want to be in South Philadelphia to experience it all at both the stadium and arena, of course, you can do that. Getting your tickets, going down there. But before you step into the building, because you might have some restrictions on how you do things, you want to make sure you place some wagers on those games. So if you feel like the Philadelphia basketball team is going to take care of business against Brooklyn on Sunday to win that 8 straight, or Philadelphia baseball, they're going to bounce back and pick up a win on Saturday and Sunday to take the series from visiting Pittsburgh, you have to make sure you go and look at the wagering that's there, where you have the center, the reigning MVP on Sunday going for 30 plus. I think that's a pretty good bet. He had 32 tonight, double-digit rebounds. Make sure you lock in those double-digit rebounds. He's also the passing has been much, much better. So when you look at maybe going up 5.5 assists, do that for him. Maybe 3.5 3-pointers for your all-star point guard as well. That's available to you right now on the BetParx Sportsbook app. Money is in the moments. Those are the events that are coming up that you can take advantage of. Win big all day with all-day action. Win your first $10 bet and earn $125 in sports bonus bets. Those are always fun because then you can venture out into other parts of the association or baseball, maybe even some hockey as well as you place your bets with BetParx Sportsbook app. You play for fun. You love to win. You bet. Download the app and play along with us. Must be 21 or older. Please gamble responsibly. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, let's get back into it here with the Philadelphia 76ers. Kelly Oubre with another good performance. We talked about him. Folks, we'll get to Allen Iverson a little bit later, but Kelly Oubre started off, as Derek said, with early 8 points, 7 minutes and 25 seconds. He was 3 for 4. He hit that big corner three on the assist from Joel Embiid. Perfect run for the Sixers there. Forced a timeout by the Orlando Magic. Then he got into a little foul trouble picking up 2 early fouls. He was frustrated about it. But Derek, again, man, after that, he then bounces back in the second quarter while he only scores in that one the 1 point in 3 minutes because of the foul trouble. He goes into the second half. In the third quarter, he drops 6, but he grabbed 6 rebounds to help them out there. In the fourth quarter, that's becoming a thing too with him. 6 points, a big 3-pointer, 2 more rebounds, and a block shots towards the end of the game, totaling 21 points, 9 rebounds in the game, 2 assists, 1 block shot. I did a radio hit earlier today, and the question was, should Kelly Oubre remain in the starting lineup? Nick Batum remain in the starting lineup because it looks like Kyle Lowry and Tobias Harris obviously is still going to be there with Embiid and Maxey. And I said I thought Batum was going to be the one just because of the minutes that he plays with Joel Embiid. Nick Nurse says no. We're going with Kelly Oubre. We talked about the hot hand. Yeah, he's earned it, and he continues to earn it. And if this is what you're going to get, 21, not only 21, there he got to the free throw line 9 times. We know he plays aggressively, but he doesn't always get the whistle, and he complains about it. So maybe that has worn off from the fine that he receives a few games back after that tirade that he had on the floor. You, your mom, your grandma, everybody, all that stuff. He got the whistle tonight, but that's because he was aggressive.
I feel like we missed an opportunity not having a shirt.
That was good.
F you, grandma.
Yeah, all that stuff. All of your family is a problem.
I don't know how we would make that like child appropriate, but I feel like there was something there.
We see those from time to time where they're, not appropriate. They're R-rated and they still sell when people wear them out in public. But Derek, man, he's the 3rd best player on this team right now. And it's not even close.
Yeah, I think what I liked about his game, first of all, you mentioned getting the free throw line. That was important because overall he didn't shoot the ball great, right? 2 for 7 from 3, 6 for 14 from the field overall. Getting the free throw line really helped his overall stat line. But what I liked is that, I feel like 2 years ago, the conversation was always with Tyrese Maxey. Yeah, he's fast, but he only has 1 speed. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. But I thought tonight Kelly changed speeds and changed directions pretty well in his drive. It wasn't just going straight to the rim because when Kelly's going straight to the rim, he's predictable. And your defense has a chance to rotate over, meet him at the rim. If he's not looking past like he wasn't like 2 months ago, then his efficiency is going to drop. His numbers at the rim from 3 to 10 feet are all lower than they should be because at various points of the season, he was predictable. Well, lately, we've been seeing the passing being sprinkled in. We've been seeing some of the assist numbers. We're talking 2.5 to 3 per game. Not exactly setting the world on fire, but it's much less predictable. Now that he's changing directions a little more, you're seeing that it's a little harder to send help. And that's really what you need with Kelly. Whenever Kelly struggles in terms of his efficiency, it's never about talent. If he can mix in the threat of the pass, if he can mix in the threat of changing speed and changing direction, it becomes just so much tougher to send help his way and to challenge him at the rim. And I think tonight was a pretty good example of that. Like I said, getting the free throw line, huge. A lot of the threes he took, I thought were pretty good threes. He keeps doing that, along with being a little more willing of a passer. He has certainly earned the spot. The question is whether or not the fit of Nick Batum overrides that. And I do think Batum is just a more natural fit. The shooting, you buy a little bit more. The passing is better and I think worthwhile. And Oubre, I think it makes sense to have Oubre on the floor when one of your 2 stars aren't. So you have another scorer on there, another creator on there. I could go either direction. I could see Nick Nurse going with either direction, but it certainly worked out here tonight.
Yeah, and things look really good right now with Kelly Oubre. And if he plays like that going forward, once again, not only, first of all, look, the stretch that he's been having when we laid it out a few shows ago where we went month by month for what he was doing and you start to see it again just continue to elevate and climb his consistency. Phil W. has been talking to us about this for a while now. And look, man, he has a real gripe. Not that we didn't give him credit, but it was also when he played poorly. We mentioned it. But the way he has been playing now, and to be this way, and we'll get into this later, and we're not probably talking 4 for $80 million, but if he plays well like this, carries this into the postseason, and continues to do this with the way that he has been playing, and if they get into a second or even a third round and he's still playing in a huge role here like he is doing right now, he is certainly going to be in the conversation for a show where we focus solely on him in the offseason of, Derek, Kyle, do they have to bring Kelly Oubre back because of the chemistry that they seem to have now had? And where did this come from with him? That's how good of basketball he is playing. But it's not just the scoring.
That'll be a summer show.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I said. That's going to be a summer show depending on how things go. And you can guarantee if he plays this way, that's something that we're going to have to talk about. But it's not just the passing. It's the getting to the free throw line when he's getting the whistle. He's rebounding the basketball to help out tonight when he knew he needed to do that on the glass to help out Joel Embiid. He's passing the basketball where we're not looking at possessions where we're saying, hey, he was just too selfish right there and he didn't give the rock up. No, even though his assist numbers weren't high tonight, he passed the basketball. He made the right play where he might have had a hockey assist because of the right decisions that he is out there making. And that's what's important for this basketball team. Unselfishness right now for this team in order to win the way that they have been.
Yeah, and look, regardless of whether or not you think they have to bring Kelly back at all costs in the summer or not, what they do need is the best version of Kelly Oubre for this stretch run. That is key no matter what. And I agree with you that in terms of making the extra pass when it's there, which includes not taking the bad shot when in the past he has, is going to get the best version of Kelly out there. I would love for the shot to be a little bit more consistent. I think that is a real concern. We've mentioned in numerous shows that when he's on the floor with Embiid, he was shooting in the high 30s as of maybe like a week ago. I haven't looked at stats since then. If that continues, that will be key as well. But they need good shooting, good decision-making, Kelly Oubre, because one thing I will say, his defense is pretty consistently strong.
Yep.
And that is something that is significant, like I said. But because Tobias is so inconsistent, because you need that sort of third scorer, because so many of your role players are limited offensively, he is very key because he is the one wing-sized athletic wing defender that they have. So you need the offense to be there in both a sort of like spark plug role off the bench, but also as when he slots next to Embiid and Maxey, he needs to be able to switch between those two roles. And that includes, like we said, making the shot, making the extra pass, making the good decisions. And the last month has been better than I think you could have reasonably hoped for. Even if I am, like I said, I tend to, once I have an opinion, it gets hard for me to move on. Like it just takes a lot of new data to convince me. But it would be impossible to deny that he is playing at maybe the best version of Kelly Oubre we've ever seen him play.
Wow. Ready now? Are we ready now, Bree? Wow, that was fast, huh?
I've never seen Kyle get this quick. Yeah,
let's get down to the arena right now and check in with our man, of course, on the scene, Nick Nurse, the players, getting the latest and the greatest from the Philadelphia 76ers. Kyle Neubeck joining us live from the arena. Make sure you go to allphly.com to make sure you read the recap, even after you hear his great words on here with us tonight. And Kyle, first, of course, we had the injury scare in the first half. At the end of the second quarter, going into the halftimes with the Sixers and the Magic, he comes back out on the floor, finishes the game, 32 points, double-double, 13 boards, 7 assists. What did you get from Nick Nurse, and if you had also had the opportunity from Joel Embiid on that and how things played out in the moment?
Well, so first of all, I have to tell you the reason we were so quick is because big upset, Joel Embiid got out of there before we even got into the locker room. So he was moving very quickly after the game. I can only assume that means that his son Arthur was here because that's normally the impetus for him moving faster than normal. In terms of the injury scare, we were told it was the knee that had been repaired, and they looked at it. Doctors didn't see much swelling, felt comfortable with him going back out there. So he went back out there. They did have some plans in place for if he had not been able to go or if it had went the other way. I believe they toyed with Mo Bamba starting the second half, depending on who had been out there for Orlando. I believe he said specifically if Mo Wagner had started because they like that matchup a bit better. Other than that, what we heard was it's same as the everyday process at this point. We're all going to wake up tomorrow. We'll see how Joe's feeling. We'll see how his body responds, and everybody will take it from there. I do think it was a good sign, not only that he came back, but that they played him down the stretch as well. They were still in the lead, obviously a little bit dicey before he came into the game, but I thought that was probably a positive sign that they got him those conditioning reps to end the game in spite of that scare.
I guess for me, a little less on reporter Kyle, a little more on analyst Kyle. Give people watching a little preview of your column. This was a measuring stick game against a really good defense and a strong playoff caliber team. What did you take away from tonight?
So to stay on Joel a little bit, I think his passing has been awesome lately, and I think that's been a clear emphasis there. Nick sat up here at the podium tonight, talked about how when they do have chances to practice, that they work on that, the spacing, the cutting, the movement, everything around Joel and that ecosystem. And frankly, a lot of it also just falls on him as an individual, making reads, making the passes. So that was awesome to see. Whenever he fills up the box score, double-digit rebounds, flirted with a triple-double, that to me is as important as the 30-plus point games, which he's scoring those in his sleep, even with when the shooting touch eludes him at times. So that was great. The other big thing to me is a theme that we saw emerge, I think early in the season, maybe less so as they were lost in the wilderness without Joel. But that's Tyrese as a closer and a guy who can take a game from being, within reach and saying, like, raise his hand and say, I got this. And I did ask him in the locker room tonight, are you at the point in your career where you just feel comfortable and confident looking Joel in the eye and saying, like, no, like, I got this. Like, I'm on a roll. I can do this. And Tyrese said, like, this last 2-month period without Joel, he thinks was useful to him in that way, like having to be the guy and you're always relied on and getting all those reps as the lead guy. And I know he will be the lead perimeter player and was prior to Joel going down and having to control the team. But it does seem like he gained some valuable reps, some confidence, and I think all that's going to translate. And one last thing, since Derek asked for analyst Kyle, I will say one thing that has impressed me over the last week and a half, whatever it's been, is that these have all been either must-win games or something close to that, right, in terms of the standings battle. And generally, they have shown up with the absolute right mentality, playing hard from the opening tip, have played pretty good defense, connected defense at the very least, had some lapses tonight in transition, like, although you give Orlando credit for that. But these are not gimme games, right? Like, we can say they're probably better than Orlando on balance. They're better than a team like Miami. You should beat teams like Memphis, San Antonio, even without Joel in San Antonio on the back-to-back. But you still have to go out there and win those games. And so they found ways to win. Miami, it was a back-and-forth shootout. This one, they were basically wire-to-wire winners. They're winning in different ways. The offense looks great with Joel Embiid. Maxey's ascending. Kelly Oubre continues to play really inspired basketball. So they just have the look of a team that is on a mission right now. And despite the fact that the standings battle is going to come down to just a bunch of insane tiebreakers, it looks like they're focused on the right stuff, which is we have to be playing our best ball going into the playoffs.
And when you talk about, of course, from Embiid to Maxey and even Oubre, just looking at the team as a whole, you mentioned that they had leads as high as 15 in the first half. They even got it to 17. And Orlando punched back and came back and made it very interesting, so much so where Tyrese Maxey had to score 5, Tobias Harris extra 2 on the 7-0 run to make it after Orlando cut it to a 7-point lead. And that's where I wanted to go because they continue to find ways. And even when Orlando extends their defensive pressure. Jalen Suggs is all up in, he and Gary Harris. Markelle Fultz as well, all up in Tyrese Maxey and Kyle Lowry in the backcourt. And then you come down where Jalen Suggs is barking at Joel Embiid where they're going at it, and he's inspiring Suggs to play even more. You're just seeing so many different things from this team to help wins, including protecting the basketball, talking on defense. And Kyle, I even brought it up while I was still there with you, where Joel is yelling at Tobias Harris, stop reaching. Something that could be a teaching thing going forward because he knows that he has his back. And they just, as you said, continue to do things to surprise us. And that includes Maxey playing the way that he is in that co-starring or /starring role.
Yeah, they just look, I do think there was an element of this last year. I felt last year, in spite of how the season ended, throughout the season, that they were a fairly resilient team. Like a lot of games that the Embiid-less lineups that were led by James Harden, they would battle back. And, they had that one really inspiring fourth quarter comeback late in the season in Milwaukee where they beat the Bucks. And I think that was the first time last year where people really sat up and were like, oh, this team could potentially do some damage. And so it's been good to see, despite Harden leaving, you lose a Hall of Fame player, you turn him into the role players and make some subsequent trades as a result of that. But to see with Tyrese leading the show, that same type of resilience with him and Joel, the partnership that they've built, to see Kelly Oubre pretty consistently stepping up in big moments lately. Another thing we haven't talked about, I don't know if you guys have talked about it on the show, this is another game where Paolo Banchero did mostly nothing for most of that game. And a lot of that falls on Tobias Harris slowing him down and figuring out ways to bother him. I did write in the recap that Paolo kind of owned him down the stretch for like a 2 to 3 minute period. But outside of that, that was a really impressive defensive outing against him because he's a guy who can punish different matchups. So, look, as all of us have said in so many words, I like that they've been able to win games in different ways against different styles of teams. We're still going to see what it looks like against, elite offensive players, which I don't think they've seen many of those lately, and they were lucky to dodge a couple of those when OKC had Shea and Jalen missing in that game. But you can only play who's on the schedule, and the business-like approach and, frankly, just the wins have been great to see.
Do you think the starting lineup they went with today will be what they use in the playoffs?
If I had to guess, yes. I still think you need to get Batum on the floor with Joel more and more and more. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see him in some closing situations. I think one of the themes of postgame, but also recently, though, is that when Kelly Oubre plays like this, he's going to force his way onto the floor, right? Like he's doing quite a bit for this team. Like we keep saying it. And Nick Nurse actually spotlighted one of my favorite plays of the game from him, that drop off to Paul Reed, whereas in the first half, he drives, defense collapses on him, and he hits the easy one to Paul on the baseline in the dunker spot for an easy basket. And that's the next level for Kelly that he's been showing for, I don't know, like a month and a half now, that he's driving consistently, scoring as a slasher. The three-point shooting comes and goes. He had a couple big ones tonight. I think the important thing is teams respect him as a shooter and will still close out hard on him even when he's missing shots. But the reads he's making, the off-ball defense, that's what's keeping him on the floor, I think, even when he's in a cold stretch. So as much as I'm advocating for Batum, I don't think he's getting crunch time or starting lineup minutes over Kelly until Kelly stops playing like this. And as we've established on the show, I don't think he's going to play. I don't think Tobias is going to be usurped unless something absolutely crazy happens in the next few weeks, which who knows, but not expecting it.
Yeah. Also, I didn't see anything. I didn't hear anything before I left. Maybe I'm a little off base here, but 5 minutes and 21 seconds for DeAnthony Melton. Did they speak about that a little bit more in the post game?
Especially after they just said he was going to try to play him more minutes than he previously did.
Yeah.
It did come up in the post game, and I think Nurse made it sound like it was just a minutes crunch situation, that it wasn't a health thing. So I was very surprised that we didn't see more of him after, what did he play, 15 in the previous game? And as Derek said, we were at practice yesterday, and Nick very deliberately was like, yeah, we're hoping to get him maybe 20 or more minutes so we can ramp him up, etc. So yeah, I was surprised by that, but didn't indicate any kind of physical issue, and D'Anthony seemed fine when we saw him in the locker room as well.
All right.
By the one last health thing. Tyrese, I know he took that tough spill.
Yeah.
Jalen Suggs not going to be welcome back in Philadelphia for a while. I don't think he didn't endear himself to the locals, but Tyrese said he was fine. Got a jolt of pain in his elbow, he said, but doesn't seem like anything to worry about as of yet. Obviously, stay tuned, but I think, knock on wood, we're in the clear.
Finally, we haven't gotten to the Iverson piece yet. They're going to celebrate him a lot on Sunday in the regular season finale. Derek, of course, there for the unveiling of the sculpture along Legends Walk. Wanted to ask you about, of course, just Iverson in general, because we always talk about him. We know what he means to the city and the organization and the franchise. And that's going to be a big conversation piece, of course, on Sunday against Brooklyn.
Yeah, so I mean, transparently, we all obviously take the fan hats on to do our job, or fan hats off to do our jobs, right? And we take it very seriously, blah, blah, blah. But I grew up watching Iverson. He's the first athlete that felt like it was like he represents where I'm from and these teams that I grew up watching. One of the first athletes honestly, the first athlete I connected with my dad with, right? Because like, when you inherit sports fandom from family members, relatives, whoever it might be, they have their guy that they grew up with. This is how it should be done, and this is what greatness looks like. Blah blah blah. And Allen Iverson obviously shook up the league in a lot of ways, not just as a player, but trends and styles and sneakers and the intersection with music and all kind of other stuff. Like the Jadakiss commercials were incredible. But the reason his story and his game resonated so much with so many people from, different walks of life, different generations, all that is we all saw it when he was between those lines. That guy left absolutely everything he had on the floor. He was very clearly himself at all times, sometimes and often to his detriment. Like he says it all the time. Like I took a beating during my career so that some of these modern stars, these guys now, can have it a little bit easier, hopefully. And he wears that as a badge of honor. And so I think he's got this enduring legacy, not just in Philadelphia, but everywhere. The thing that honestly makes me happiest, though, listening to him, following him as he progressed past his playing career, and his playing career ended pretty abruptly for a guy who was as great as he was at his peak. He very easily could have been one of those, like, fuck these young kids today and how these guys play. He is like the ultimate ambassador for basketball. He is constantly on TV, on podcasts, on Instagram, wherever it might be, praising these guys. Like Steph Curry is absolutely incredible. LeBron is the greatest. Joel Embiid is the greatest. Tyrese Maxey. I actually think the other day when Tyrese dropped 52 on San Antonio, he specifically made a post about Tyrese Maxey on his Instagram. And so that to me is what sports and the basketball community specifically is about, right? It's like passing the game to new generations, to other people, whether you know them or not, and rekindling that love for other people. So it's been so awesome for me as someone who grew up that he's like someone I looked up to and loved watching play, to see him continue to pass that on to people who never saw him play through other people's achievements. So A+ guy, A+ player. That's about all I got on him.
My favorite part about this Curry thing when you bring up Steph Curry is when he always calls him, or in the beginning he would say, man, that little light-skinned dude in Golden State. And that's how it always is. Make sure you go read Kyle at allphly.com. Of course, he'll be back again for Postgame live from the arena on Sunday as the Sixers wrap things up against Brooklyn in the regular season finale. Kyle, you going to go home and put your feet up and choose chill tonight?
Not going to choose chill tonight, but it is my father's birthday tomorrow, so
Happy
there will be
birthday.
some chill choosing in
Well,
the Newbeck household
If you
or
start
on the
talking about
town
basketball
tomorrow.
and referees, I'm not sure how chill he will be. But other than that, yes.
That's true.
Here's the thing: there are no games tomorrow,
That's
fellas.
true.
So
That's
we will absolutely be choosing chill, have a nice dinner, have some brew dogs, and get ready for a 1 o'clock matinee
1
on
o'clock.
Sunday? Am I
1 o'clock.
misremembering that? Ugh,
Yeah.
Nope, that's right.
I normally hate those, but whatever. Last game of the
182,
season,
I think
fellas.
it makes more sense.
Yeah.
All right.
All right,
Well,
guys. Well,
have a
get
good
home
one, man.
safe, and you choose chill yourselves, obviously.
Well, I will do that right now as we go and choose chill with our good friends from Coors Light and from your day-to-day annoyances to the big stuff. Of course, it's easy to get worked up. You're not getting worked up right now because your basketball team, they're choosing chill in a different way, where they're playing some really good hoops against every opponent. And as they do so, you get to sit back, put your feet up, choosing chill, reach for that cold Coors Light. There's always the better way, and that particular way there, of course. And with Philadelphia playing the way that they are right now on the basketball court, it has to make you feel good that after every one of them, whether you're at the arena, at your local establishment, ordering a choose chill beverage with Coors Light in the moment, or even when you get home and decide, you know what, I'm feeling so good about my basketball team that I'm doing just that. I'm choosing chill. So make sure you do that when the mountains turn blue. It's as cold as the Rockies. Coors Light is cold lager, cold filtered and cold packaged for a smoother finish. When it's time to chill, open a Coors Light. It's mountain cold refreshment, crisp and refreshing as the Colorado Rockies. And if you're celebrating your parents, your fathers, in this particular case for Mr. Newbeck, you want to sit back, toast one, cheers to Mr. Newbeck on a birthday, of course, that you're celebrating with your family. When you choose to rise above it all, choose chill, choose Coors Light. Get Coors Light delivered straight to your door with Instacart by going to CoorsLight.com/PHLY basketball. Celebrate responsibly. Choose Coors Brewing Company, and that is, of course, Golden, Colorado.
Only place in Colorado that Kyle Newbeck is welcome.
That's it, especially for Mr. Newbeck. They won't give him a hard time with that one.
That's what Golden is, a little west of Denver, I think. I think it's somewhere up in the mountains.
I'll take your word for it.
I think I remember that.
Yeah.
When I was out there. Again, most of Colorado hates Kyle, but that's mostly because of what he said on this very show. We also want to make sure we tell you about FOCO, one of our longtime sponsors here at PHLY. FOCO is a leading manufacturer of sports and entertainment merchandise with a product line that includes apparel, accessories, toys, collectibles, novelty items, and more. It's the best officially licensed gear for all sports and fandoms. If you're going to a baseball or a basketball or hockey game, or baseball too, show off your love with team-branded friendship bracelets. Whether it's hoodies, jackets, beachwear, or even overalls, there is something for fans for almost every occasion. And FOCO has hooked PHLY up and provided awesome pieces for our sets. FOCO always has our back for Philly sports, and they have yours too. Get the best gear around by using the link in our description. For all non-presale items, use the promo code PHLY10 for 10% off.
All right, a lot of good basketball still to talk about here with the 76ers. Derek, can we update everybody on what's going on around the association?
Oh, geez, the toughest part of the show here
There's so
tonight.
much. We'll get to our super chats as well, so hang tight, everybody. We're coming to you, and we'll talk about Allen Iverson. Derek was there at the unveiling of the new.
A lot of people upset at the statue. I guess
we'll get to that because I had to tell some people in my life where they were like, "Wait a minute." We'll get to that. But let's get to what happened tonight in the association and how it directly impacts the 76ers.
So the key games here, the Cavaliers beat the Pacers. And that specific outcome isn't really all that important. But what that means is you need the Pacers to lose their final game against the Hawks at Indiana. So just keep that one there in mind. The Knicks beat the Nets. That is actually good for the Sixers. You want the Bucks to have something to play for in their final game because the Bucks' final game comes against the Orlando Magic. And we'll get to why you need that game to be important in a second. But them winning that is important. The Heat did beat the Raptors, so what that means is in order to avoid the 8th seed, the Sixers will have to win their final game.
Yep.
Miami could still catch them. That is an important game as well. And the Thunder beat the Bucks pretty handily. So the reason why all of those are important, again, for the Sixers to get the 6th seed, you need the Sixers to win out, which they accomplished one of those two games here tonight, so that's good. They have one more left here on Sunday. And you need one of three things to happen: the Pacers to win out, the Pacers to lose out, or the Magic to lose to the Bucks on the final game of the season. So the reason that we brought up the Bucks scores and the Knicks scores, New York trails the Bucks by 1 game for the race for the 2 seed. So if either the Knicks had lost or the Bucks had won today, Milwaukee would have clinched that 2 seed. They had nothing to play for against Orlando, making it less likely that they come out and beat Orlando. So now you have a motivated Milwaukee team for the finale going up against these Orlando Magic. So again, if the Sixers win their final game, which we expect that they should, especially if they're motivated, and they are, then you need either the Pacers to lose or the Magic to lose, and you have the 6th seed.
You get all that, people?
It's actually it's getting pretty like you need
with one game left.
You need the Sixers to win 1 game, and you need one of those 2 teams to lose 1 game. That's it.
Yeah. So listen, folks, Sixers are doing their part. How about Atlanta? Since you screwed the Sixers in that double overtime against Miami the other day, how about you just help the Sixers out in this case by beating Indiana on Sunday and making it very easy for all of us?
Yeah, I mean, look, we gave you 2021. The least you could do is return the favor here. And quite literally, the Sixers gave them that series. You were not good enough to be a conference finals team.
And by the way, basically ruined their franchise trajectory because they thought they were better than they actually were. Yeah, so Sixers, again, doing their part. But great breakdown there by Derek to help everybody out with the standings as things, because everybody is playing on Sunday. Everybody's playing on Sunday. Everybody off, as Kyle talked about, on Saturday. So everyone is playing on Sunday. So, I mean, on Sunday, yes. So all of these are important. So maybe we'll even clip that and post that as a video for everybody to
posted.
Get that.
Well, I had it posted earlier. Now. Yeah, it's that's a good point.
The update now. So we'll see. But let's get to our super chats from everybody. We should probably have something cool for the super chats, like graphics, where it's like, oh, super chats now, just coming up with a different
trying to give
voice.
Bree more work.
No, maybe we'll do that. Maybe we'll get Chris to do that on that one. Let's start off with our guy, Coach. What up, Coach? Coach Lowell Ricketts here with us. Milwaukee decides their playoff fate Sunday. Win, they are the 2. And the Sixers, 6. They lose, they are the 3, and the Sixers are 7. Bucks avoid Sixers, and we play the Knicks either way.
He's saying they might be tanking. They might not want the 2.
Do you think they're doing that?
No, I mean,
because if they play the 3, they've had trouble with Indiana too.
Yeah. No, it would make a little bit look, as much as they may have had trouble with Indiana, and I think they could, like a fast-paced team like that could throw a wrench into Milwaukee. I think they'd probably be more scared of the Sixers. So I think there's might be some legitimacy to what I don't know if NBA teams actually try to manipulate the standings as much as we think they do, especially a team like Milwaukee right now that's just not playing very good basketball and might want to get into the playoffs on a little bit of a strong suit.
By the way, they won the other day. While they lost that last game, they won the night before.
Yep.
So they're still trying to win.
Yeah. So we'll see. I wouldn't guess that they're trying to outwardly avoid the Sixers, but logically I could understand the argument.
Okay. All right. Appreciate it, Coach. As always, Matt Webster jumps in. I think everyone here is too worried about matchups. As long as we don't have to play Boston, I don't see this team struggling. Let's go. Thank you, Matt.
I agree to some extent. Like, it's not that I'm saying the Sixers should try to get the 6th seed to avoid this or avoid that. I think the Sixers should try to get the 6th seed so they avoid the play-in. My whole thing isn't necessarily about the matchups. It's about, well, with the play-in, you're 1 loss away from having to play Boston in the first round. Yes. Boston's the only real matchup you're trying to avoid. So it's trying to get out of a win or, like I said, weird shit happens in any one individual game. That's why we have a 7-game playoff series, so one team doesn't get hot for one game and all of a sudden advance to the finals. So yeah, I think you want to avoid the play-in more so than you're trying to avoid or manipulate a matchup.
All right. Well, I agree with Derek. They're just simply trying to win. They're trying to play their best brand of basketball, losing as much as they have been when Embiid was out. Of course, have put them in this scenario here where they have to play this brand of basketball. Not that that's ever a bad thing, but winning, but you just simply want to be playing good basketball. And if you are trying to avoid an extra game, which is the play-in, you win and let the chips fall where they may, and maybe others will help you where you land in that top 6. And by the way, they all, again, like we just talked about with Coach, are more worried about the Sixers, I think, because of how good they play with Embiid on the floor.
Yeah. And I think, Matt might have been talking about maybe like the conversation of the Bucks trying to avoid. Like, it's not just the Sixers who might apply here, but certainly from the Sixers perspective, I think they want the 6 to avoid the play-in, get that extra rest, which Nick Nurse talked about at practice yesterday. I think there's a whole host of reasons you would want that.
Yeah, no doubt about it. All right, let's get to our guy, Real Time, who says, Derek Bodner looks like the 3rd Wagner brother. Are you secretly related to the Wagners?
Not that I know of.
You didn't go to Michigan.
I am German, but that's about the.
that's the extent of it.
I don't think I agree with that either. By the way,
I don't think
I
so
look like
either.
a Wagner.
Yeah, I don't think you look like a Wagner. No. By the way, I thought Mo Wagner was basically out of the league at one point. Good bounce back for him.
Yeah, he's useful. He's just not as good as his brother.
No, he's very useful. Like if he was on the Sixers, I'd be like, oh, okay, that physicality and all, you can play. Yeah, I could see him fitting in here in Philadelphia. Bernard checks in. I believe we can beat anybody, but playing the Knicks in the first round, not good. It's not Brunson, it's Hart and the team rebounding that kill you. Bernard, we talked about this when the Knicks were playing, and I think it was the Sixers. We know Josh Hart from his Villanova days, the way he plays. He goes after every available basketball, not just loose ball, anything where he feels like he can get after to get that extra possession. That's what he does. As good as the Knicks are, though, and I think it would be a 6-7 game series, I still believe the Sixers are a better basketball team.
I think they're a better basketball team too, but I'm not sure. And that's part of the problem with the way that this is unfolding. On the one hand, we're all excited that they might have a chance to get 6. Well, not me, but everyone else is excited they have a chance to get 6 and avoid the play-in. And everyone's excited because of how well they look and how Tyrese Maxey is playing. We just talked about how he can take over in the 4th quarter and has done that pretty consistently. How well Maxey and Embiid look together, how Kelly Oubre stepping up and becoming a more reliable player, how some of the role players fit alongside of your yada, yada, yada. A lot of stuff to be excited about. The problem is there's a real pathway where you have to beat maybe Milwaukee in the first round, New York in the second round, Boston in the third round. That's a real tough path to the conference or to the finals.
Yeah.
That would probably be the toughest path they've ever had to try to get to the finals. So even if they're playing at their highest level and Embiid's healthier than he's been in the playoffs, it's still going to be very, very tough just because you've got falling down into the bottom half of the standings makes that climb really tough.
Because
normally it has to go right.
Normally you're starting at home. Sixers are a very good home team, have been for the past 8 seasons since Embiid and Simmons started things off and for where we are right now. Now you have to start on the road and you have to win on the road. So you really won't have a home playoff series unless someone helps you out as a lower seed, Miami, Orlando, Indiana, and knock someone off for you to be able to host a playoff series. So everything is going to have to start on the road, and maybe you can finish it up at home in any particular series. Finally, our good friend Val. What up, Val? Val hosts. Love and excited about my Sixers and this channel, the PHLY sports channel overall. And of course, she's a big part of our Sixers show.
I agree with her on both of those accounts.
Thank you, Val. Much love to you. We appreciate it. And as always, we appreciate all of you for checking in. We're not done. We're just saying thank you to everybody. SB Cole also pointing out how good DiVincenzo has been. And they can be reckless at times, potentially injure Joel, he points out, because of how they go after aggressively the loose balls and things of that nature. But they can also, in Dante's case, can certainly shoot the basketball. Let's get to the Iverson piece here. A lot of people talking about the statue here in the chat. It was trending earlier, making fun of Iverson's small size statue. So this may help a lot of people because I have seen some apologies from a lot, but they didn't understand, and I had to tell a few people in my life, here's how it goes. They have a Legends Walk where it goes from one end of the practice facility to the entrance where the players, the coaches, and the Sixers staff go in their area as well. Along that walkway are a number of miniature size statues representing and acknowledging the Sixers franchise and these individual players. Charles Barkley, being one of them, also has one of these smaller size statues along that walk. Some of the other Sixer legends also have these statues. The only life-size real statues that we've seen released in LA with Kobe and Shaq. And now here, when we talk about what's at the center, Wilt and Doc. We know about the Rocky statue at the Art Museum.
Right.
The Sixers lease their time here at the center. They don't own it.
Right.
It's the Comcast company.
Yeah.
It's the Flyers. If they're going to give Iverson,
That is
who
a
I
very
think-
public point of contention right now, by the way.
Absolutely. Who I think is deserving of anybody else outside of those guys. Charles Barkley, in a sense, of course. Certainly Allen Iverson deserves a real-size statue. I think they would like to do that at their new arena, should that get completed later down the line, and not at this particular spot.
If they're going to give Iverson like a Rocky-esque statue, they're not going to put it in a closed-off portion of Camden.
No.
Yes.
No. So for the people who are unclear of what the small size statue is about with Allen Iverson, more so for the folks outside of the city, even though we know people here did not understand why it was so small, it's because that's for the purposes of their walk. They can't have these giant statues going up and down.
Well, and they have to have like 11 of them in a row.
Yes.
Yeah. You
And
can't.
they're not done, by the way.
Right.
Right? They're going to have more.
Joe's going to need one in a couple
Maxey might
decades.
just need one. And because the practice facility is going to be there. While they're looking for their new arena, maybe in Center City, the practice facility, Derek, is not going anywhere.
Right.
So that Legends Walk is going to extend even further past Allen Iverson, who got his today.
Yeah.
And you were there. Can you tell us about it and your thoughts in general of the whole thing?
I think a lot of people, I think you're exactly right. I think a lot of people thought like, oh, they're giving AI a statue. Like this is unique to AI. And they're just honoring him in a way like you mentioned, almost like a Rocky statue. That's not what's going on here. They have a Legends Walk that already exists. It's got a whole bunch of people, everyone from Dolph Schayes to Moses Malone to Mo Cheeks, Charles
Bobby
Barkley.
Jones.
There's a whole bunch of people on there already. They just added Iverson to that list. So it's not like they gave like this. I don't want to say it's not special because it is special to have a statue. There's only a 10 of them there. But
That's why it was so crowded there today, because it's special.
Right. But it's not like this is just about Iverson. It's about all of their legends. It's Legends Walk.
Yes.
Iverson's looks a little bit smaller than the others because most of them are big men, like skying up for a rebound or a dunk, whereas Iverson is bending over, crossing over Jordan. So he's leaning over. He's going to, first of all, he's a smaller person than Moses Malone and Wilt Chamberlain and Charles Barkley, but also he is bending over, whereas most of the other ones are reaching up to dunk. It's in part because of the pose they used to honor him with. I think a lot of people thought it was either going to be the crossover. In fact, they let a bunch of fans in there as well, and one of them is yelling like, "I knew it was going to be the Jordan crossover. I knew it. They banned a crossover because it happened to Jordan." And like a lot of people expected this would be the pose they chose. The other one was cupping the ear. That was the only other obvious one.
That was my favorite, the cupping of the ear.
But
that was
I think the pose they chose, which I think is a good pose. I don't have anything against pose, but I think it made the picture look smaller than it actually is when you see it in person, which again, not a lot of people will see it in person because it's a closed off portion of the practice facility. But when you see it in person, I don't think it's nearly as bad. In fact, I have a picture of it up on my Instagram. If you want to go check that out, just search for me. You'll find it. I don't really use Instagram for work purposes, but this is one where I do have a picture.
Derek has a really good photo of it, so go check it out. And with the, first of all, he had a headband on, right? In the
I think so.
I think he had a headband on, and he didn't have the questions. His first signature shoe. I think he had this, and I bring this up because the jersey that he is wearing is the one that all of you love, the black and the white. With the gold,
he does have a headband.
He has a headband on. So that's not the Jordan crossover. I just wanted to bring that up. That's not the Jordan crossover because it was his rookie season. He didn't have his braids yet, and he wasn't wearing headbands as much at that time. And when he did have it, he had there was a starter pack of the braids.
Okay.
Not the one that when it became Iverson with the braids, where it was longer with the headband and all that stuff. So it's not the Jordan crossover. It was just his signature crossover.
Okay.
And again, the sneakers, as I detailed on
Probably
when you had it up there.
don't want to put it on Jordan just because Jordan might take that a little bit personal.
Right. And it wasn't the question. I mean, the questions, he had the answers.
I like that
on.
you break down which crossover it is based on what shoe he's wearing. I appreciate
he
that.
had the answers
it's
on.
the kind of attention to detail that I would never know because I'm not a sneakerhead, but I appreciate that you do.
So he had the answers on and not the questions, and he probably dropped Antonio Daniels twice in that game against Washington in South Philadelphia at the center. So just again to clear it up for the people who didn't know, it's the Legends Walk, where there are going to be multiple statues put up there. They don't have everybody. Mo Cheeks is up there.
He's up there.
So they have many others that are probably going to be like Joel and Tyrese Maxey eventually.
But that'll be quite a while.
That's quite a while away. But the point of it was, the reason why it's small is because, number one, he's crouched over in the crossover position, but more so because they need the space to continue to add these statues along Legends Walk in Camden at the practice facility. How cool?
I will say, I didn't, like, when I saw the statue, it didn't even cross my mind that this would be a controversy. It didn't even cross my mind.
The only thing was, did they choose the right pose? Crossover or step over Tyronn Lue or cuffing of the year? Something like that.
I think the step over would have been a little too iconic. I don't think they wanted to show a player up, whereas a crossover can just be a generic crossover.
If they do, which we think they might, at the new arena, wherever it may be, cuffing of the year?
Well, there I think a step over would work because you want to get the fans riled up. I could go either. Cupping of the year is a more iconic one.
Yeah.
Well, they're both iconic.
They're both.
Either one.
And you know exactly who it is when he does this and has the finger sleeve,
right,
the rubber band, the head, all that cool stuff. Just your thoughts, though. You were there. I was not. There were so many people. There were legends there.
Oh, yeah.
with Derek. Derek's a legend, too, by the way.
Yeah. Most of the 01 team was there. It was really, look.
Coach said to buy a statue. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Anyway, can't believe you're ruining the AI moment with Tobias talk. No, look, I think the way Kyle put it, all three of us take our jobs pretty seriously and try to be professionals and understand that we are here to do a job and cover a team and to remain unbiased in doing so. And I think it's a little easier to do that now because everyone that we are around, we've been covering the entire time as journalists. We've been doing this long enough now. AI and a couple others, like there's been a couple instances here where like Charles Barkley, Julius Erving, it still brings out the like, oh no, I know these, like I know Allen Iverson as a fan, not as a journalist. And I still have that moment a little bit. And being in the presence, look, I'm not going to say I fell in love with the game because of Iverson, because I loved basketball even before then. A lot of it because of having played it growing up. But Allen was a big part of taking it from something that I enjoyed and I loved to being obsessed about it. And I think that's true for a lot of people in the Delaware Valley. I think, there's a whole bunch of sort of places my mind goes on this. First of all, I wish I covered him and that team because, first of all, the access back then was just different. The athletes were a little bit more raw and unfiltered. And he was exceptionally unique. I think he has a connection with the fan base that I don't think I've ever seen maybe in any sport, really. Part of that comes down with the passion that he played with. Part of that comes down with, I think basketball lends itself to that, right? Because football, you've got like a helmet on. It's hard to see facial expressions. Baseball is sort of like a more stoic sport. Basketball, there's just a raw emotional component to it. And there was no player who's ever been more raw and emotional than Iverson. And the way that he wore every emotion on his sleeve, the good, the bad, the ugly. When he was excited, when he was frustrated, when he was like his flaws, his greatness, everything was just right out in the open in a way that I've never seen before. And in today's era where it feels like everyone has not only a PR staff, but like a full team of handlers and whatnot, everyone it feels like there's a filter on athletes that Iverson never had. And I just don't know if we're ever going to see anyone really capture a fan base the way he did. It was really like growing up was great. And I mean that, like so much of Iverson's legacy right now, I don't want to say rests on 2001, but it certainly adds to his legacy in a big way. And there was so much, like if you look at the rest of his playoff track record, there weren't a lot of real success stories. Like there was a lot of frustration involved in the Iverson era. He was almost traded. Like there was a lot of, I think, frustration with that team. And just having one breakthrough moment, one moment of greatness can take a era that was a little bit frustrating maybe to one that you'll never forget. And I really mean that, where it reminded me that I hope that this generation of basketball fans gets to experience that with Joel Embiid. I really do.
Yeah, that was a great time. Loved basketball before Allen Iverson. Iverson burst onto the scene when I was in college in '95. Of course, I knew about him, family in the Virginia DMV area, so I knew about him already. And then when the whole story with the bowling alley, we all know about the story that we know, which brought a lot of attention to so many in the world. And then going to Georgetown again. My uncle, who was 5-6 years older than me, may rest in peace. My guy, right? So he's in Baltimore, and he's like, yo. So we would talk about guys coming from Dunbar and DeMatha, like B. West, and Brian Westbrook, and a big thing in the conversation when I would go visit with he and his older friends in the barbershop talk was Allen Iverson right there and Bubba Chuck in Georgetown with what they were doing, Georgetown, Victor Page, all those guys, John Thompson. And then the Sixers stink, and he's eligible for the draft. He's coming out, and your team wins the lottery, and he's going to get him. You knew it. All the Canby talk and the Marbury talk. Discussing Kobe in the sense that you understood it, but they weren't going to take him with the number 1 overall pick, maybe trade down and possibly take Kobe. But you knew Iverson was coming to the city. And the buzz around that when he got here, the Reebok commercial where he's sitting in the car and he's driving with the hat before, he's in the car, you see him, the camera's following him while he's sitting in the car, top down, and it's just the city and Iverson, and you're just seeing it was one of the legendary commercials and all of that. Then you fast forward, 50-point games and 40-point games, the stretch that he had as a rookie, beating that streak against Cleveland and Bobby Sohr, just running around, grabbing on for his life, he and Terrell Brandon trying to keep up with Iverson in that game. Then you move to 2001. He's almost traded before that.
Yep.
Thank
you, Matt Geiger. Literally the only reason that we have the 2001 run is because Matt Geiger didn't want to, turn down like $1 million trade
kicker.
bonus.
He had a trade kicker and go to Detroit. And
that's what I mean with legacy. Like some of these legacies that we just now look at as fact were so close to not happening, so close to not existing, required one bit of luck or Vince Carter shot that was 2 inches away from heartbreak. Like I think everyone looks at things in the past as like this was destined to happen, whereas so many things are by a thread.
Yeah, man. And to see them go 10-0, I'll never forget this, Derek, that season.
Yeah.
10-0.
41-14.
At the All-Star break. When they went 10-0, it was like, oh, I don't say this. I sit there and talk with, my kid, my youngest, she was born, and talking with her mom at the time. We would sit there, big basketball fan she is as well. And Derek, I'm literally like this as we talk with our folks. Shit, this team is good.
Yeah.
And they might be that good. So you remember that, the All-Star game, how he's propped up on the All-Star game. He's the MVP. Larry Brown, they make the trade. I'm pissed off because Theo Ratliff was playing so well, even though he broke his hand. Let them ride it out. Nazi and Todd McCullough, let them ride it out. Theo will be back, right?
Theo was never the same, though.
He was never because he was also gut punched by the trade, and he never recovered from that. And then they go into and they lose game 1. Number 1 seed, they lose game 1 to Indiana, they could never beat Reggie Miller and Indiana in the postseason. Then they come back and sweep them the rest of the way in a 5-game series, which I love 5-game series. Then they go do what they do, and we know what the history is with him, but you watch the game tonight, Paolo Banchero has braids in his hair. He's wearing a headband.
Yeah.
Larry Hughes was with you as one of the legends there visiting, and he says, I took the beating for all of these young guys. Look at what they do now. The way they dress, the way that they carry themselves with their headbands, their braids. I think it was Marshawn Lynch said, the WWJD, the What Would Jesus Do bracelet that he would wear. He would wear a rubber band as well. Dawn Staley was also notorious. Mo Cheeks as well. They would also do that as well. But he did a lot of that stuff. The shooting sleeves that they wear right now. They don't realize that he wore it because he really had a messed up elbow.
It's become a fashion statement.
Yes, it's a fashion statement. So we say all of that because he did create a pathway. He was a trailblazer for a lot of different things. Not always good, but certainly he did a lot of things because of them. And when you look at Shaquille O'Neal, Kevin Garnett, who I can't stand, but they're legends. Kevin Garnett, I can't stand. We talked about that before.
Talked about that.
And, but they always show that respect for him as a 6-foot guard, as Matt Cord would say, from Georgetown. You know,
And
all
he
that
wasn't
stuff.
6 foot.
And
by
he
the
wasn't
way.
6 foot. I'm 5'6", for real, 5'6". He is like right there with Derek. It
was funny.
Who's taller than
Billy
Allen
was
Iverson.
talking about it, like, for what he's able to do at 5'11", and he made a joke, something along the
Yeah,
lines of
yeah.
like, we can stop lying about it.
Yeah,
He's not 6
exactly. You
foot.
don't have to. Yeah. Hey, when I played, they would list me at 5'8".
Right.
Right. So there you go.
No, and that, I mean, look, like I said, basketball
Legendary.
is great because you have so much access to the raw emotion going on in the game because they're not wearing a helmet, because it is a more emotional game. And to have a 6 foot guard
6 foot
play
guard.
the way he did
Yes.
and ping pong off of big men in the paint, it was just a joy to watch. And I think about this all the time of, man, I wish he would have played in this era of basketball. And I think a lot of people get caught up on like, well, he wouldn't be as good because he's not a good enough shooter. Well, first of all, he'd put more effort into it. But second of all, can you imagine him playing with a space floor, like a 5-out? Like, drop him in place of Jaylen Brown right now on that Celtics team with all that shooting and spacing and ball movement, and just watch him. Like, how are you going to defend him off the
Derek,
dribble?
they
'Cause
can't touch him.
He could get by the level of defense whenever the hell he wanted. He just always had a big man in the paint and usually a couple of wings in there too, because you had Tyrone Hill and George Lynch on the court as your forwards. I'd love to see him with modern NBA spacing.
They could not touch him. They can't touch him.
Yeah.
The defensive rules today, they can't touch him.
Either he would score 6 layups a night or he would be at the free throw line 15 times per. It would be fun to watch. But like, it really is just, I just don't know if we will get a connection with an athlete like that again.
He's one of one.
He really is.
Do you think you agree with that?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
It's not even close.
For a lot of ways, for his style of play, and then the other stuff that you just talked
and
about.
even
He's one
even
of
the
one.
flaws. I feel like a lot of the flaws in the moment were tough to live with. Like,
There was some tough
whether
ones.
it was the off-court ones or the practice habits or what, which is funny to think of now because teams barely practice.
And
he'd go great in today's NBA.
And stars only play 60 to this isn't me criticizing the NBA for light practices. Like, I think there's a lot of load management talk, and you need your stars healthy, so they cut back on that a lot. There's a lot of science behind that. But there wouldn't be the controversy. But like I said, even his flaws, it just made him more human. Yes.
And I think as fans, we want a connection with our athletes. We want to see the humanity, the good and the bad, and the fact that they care. And Allen Iverson had all of that. It was an immediate environment where he got to show it. Like I said, I feel like now it's overly PR'd to the point where you strip a little bit of that imperfection away. And in doing so, you strip a little bit of that connection with the fans away. And I think they think that they can then recover that with social media, but social media is fake. And I think there was a connection, a vulnerability with Allen Iverson that I've just never seen with the star athlete before. And I don't know if we're going to be able to see, since, because there is that multiple layers of filters on athletes today.
Unbelievable player, man, and well-deserved to get that statue. A lot of people commenting in the chat about him and what he means to their Philadelphia basketball history. Man, and remember at that time too in the finals, flags everywhere.
Oh, the car flags were everywhere. Yes,
everyone got along.
It really
from
is.
April to June.
There were only 2 instances that I really felt that in Philly. The other one was when the Phillies finally did win it
in 08.
In 08.
Yeah,
that was everyone. I remember going to that parade, and everyone was your best friend.
The difference with that is the Sixers was in the spring, where it was warming up going into the summer. Everyone was on board. Our buddy Vince Pellegrini always says to me, I don't know how much, if the Sixers win, this town, or not even, if they even get to the Eastern Conference Finals, this town is going to go crazy. Yeah. Just because they finally get past the Eastern Conference. I mean, the second round once again. Fantastic time. And Jay of the Jungle was commenting on things. Jay was at the game courtesy of PHLY tonight. So Jay of the Jungle, we see you in there. We hope you had a good time. Sorry we didn't get an opportunity to catch up, but glad you were there. Again, this is what happens when you become a diehard member. A lot of times you get rewarded with some things like an opportunity to win some tickets. You get the content behind the wall there to read Derek's, Kyle's, Bo, Zach, Charlie, all of their work. So make sure you sign up for a Die Hard. You get 20% off. You get a T-shirt and a choice of a T-shirt, and you get exclusive opportunity to join us for a lot of events that we will have here going forward with this company, of course, the PHLY. So make sure you sign up to become a Die Hard member, and we will, of course, greatly appreciate it. Yes, Derek might have to eat a shoe. We're still trying to figure all of that out. But for tonight, he just needs some regular food. It's been a long day for Derek. We got say a lot of thank yous to a lot of people here.
I think the super chat wise, we had Coach Lil Ricketts.
What up, Coach?
Matt Webster, real time again.
Real time.
Bernard McCoy, Val, and I think that
love you much, Val.
It. Everyone else, we have Coach. Well, Coach was already in the super chats.
Yes, sir.
Eugene Ross, Luke P, X-Man.
X.
I always want to know, is that like a specific X-Man or is that the Nate Gray character? Specify that. Is it just X-Men in general or a specific X-Man? Anyway, doesn't matter.
Maybe it's
completely going sideways here. Cannoli, James Meehan, Martian Lynch, Stuart Rhodes, Dave Dewar, Winona, Gardmello.
What up, Nona?
Alex M, Philly Insider Podcast.
Whoa.
Smy Guy, Flower of Life, Remo K, Liam Stevens, Maurice James, the Bull RJ, and I want to say,
what up, RJ?
RJ, I unblocked you. You've turned a corner. I appreciate that. Maybe somebody else, because there's only one other person I have blocked. Maybe somebody else can maybe see your example and move forward with their life. We'll see.
500.
Ash Monroe.
People.
Ash, what up?
Khalil Wilson. Jada Jungle, as we mentioned, went to the game. Hope you had fun.
Yes, sir, Jay.
2-minute warning.
What up, Al?
Elliot Vincent. Jake M. Hypothetical Man. Front running fan base.
What up, front running fan base? That's
Nick
a long
Nurse's Pinky Ring, and I just want to say I appreciate you, Nick, Mr. Pinky Ring, because he mentioned when they were talking about me looking at like Mo Wagner, he mentioned I look like Brad Pitt with glasses. You're clearly blind, but I appreciate you nonetheless.
I can see the Brad Pitt with glasses.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I can see that. Like Ocean's 11 Brad Pitt.
Sure, yeah, no, I completely.
Pinky rings, by the way. Eastern Conference Finals, we're doing it. Bree, you up for the pinky ring? We got to get it done. All right, folks, we'll be back on Sunday, post-game. Rich and Derek. Kyle will be at the arena. I'll be at the arena, not working. Wink, wink. And so I will not be here. I'll be back on.
Just remember who they're playing on Sunday.
I'll be back. Bree will be here. I'll be back next week with the gang. But we really appreciate it. Make sure you like and subscribe. We really appreciate it. As always, tell a friend to tell another friend to tell another friend. This team is hot right now. You want them to get the 6th seed. Let's see what happens. Make sure when you like and subscribe, of course, that you will know that you will get the alert of the bell ringing. Everybody have a great rest of your Friday night. Go choose chill with the Coors Light. Put your feet up. Enjoy your Saturday. We'll talk to you on Sunday as Liam thinks I'm going to recruit. Good night, everybody. Thanks, Bree.
We all silly like the mayor.